I spent $8,700 on a single engine rebuild for a Harley that was supposed to be bulletproof, and that was the day I realized I'd been lied to. Look, I'm not here to bash anyone's favorite bike. I've owned both. I've ridden both hard for years, and I'm about to tell you something that might make you really angry. The Honda versus Harley debate? It's not even close, and the winner might shock you. I'm going to share stories from real riders, guys who switched from Honda to Harley, thinking they were upgrading. And then, well, you'll see what happened next. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly which bike is right for you, and more importantly, which one will leave you stranded on the side of the road. But first, hit that subscribe button, because what I'm about to tell you is going to start some serious fights in the comments. Here's my confession. I wanted to love Harley-Davidson. I really did. The sound, the heritage, the rebel image. When I finally had the money, I bought a beautiful fat boy. Chrome everywhere. That deep V-twin rumble that makes your chest vibrate. For the first month, I was in love. By month 6, I was in the shop. By year 2, I was writing checks I never expected to write. But here's what really opened my eyes. It wasn't just me. I started talking to other riders, and the stories I heard broke my heart. Let me tell you about Mike. Mike bought his dream bike, a Screaming Eagle Ultra Classic. Beautiful machine. Cost him more than his truck. 3 engine rebuilds in 4 years. That third one, $8,700 out of his own pocket. Mike's back on a Goldwing now. He told me, I spent more time fixing my Harley than riding it. Then there's Jim, 77 years old, owned Harleys most of his life. You know what he rides now? A Honda Valkyrie. He calls it his 6-cylinder rocket. Why did he switch? Son, I'm too old to push a motorcycle home. But the story that really opened my eyes came from a guy who owned both Honda and Harley dealerships since 1984. I asked him straight up, what would you buy with your own money? He looked around and said, there's no competition. Honda builds bikes to ride. Harley builds bikes to fix. Here's another story that'll blow your mind. I met a retired Harley mechanic, 30 years working exclusively on Harleys. You'd think he'd be the biggest Harley fan, right? He said, son, I worked on these things for 30 years. If you want to ride, buy Honda. If you want a wrench, buy Harley. He told me about customers who became like family because they were in the shop so often. But when his own son wanted a motorcycle, he bought him a Honda Shadow. Think about that. A guy whose livelihood depended on Harley repairs chose Honda for his own family. Now, here's where this gets really interesting and controversial. How did we all get fooled into thinking that unreliable equals authentic? Let me take you back to the 1980s. Harley was dying. Literally dying. They were making garbage motorcycles that couldn't compete with anything coming from Japan. Quality control was non-existent. They were hemorrhaging money and about to disappear forever. Then something brilliant happened. Instead of fixing their engineering problems, they fixed their marketing problems. They turned their biggest weakness into their selling point. Oil leaks became character. Vibration became soul. Breakdowns became part of the authentic riding experience. And we bought it. All of us. They convinced an entire generation of riders that suffering for your motorcycle made you a real biker. That if it was too reliable, too smooth, too refined, it wasn't authentic. Think about how insane that is. In what other industry do we celebrate inferior products as more authentic? Imagine if Ford marketed their trucks by saying, yeah, it'll break down a lot, but that's what makes it a real truck. You'd laugh them out of business. But somehow, in motorcycles, we accepted it. We embraced it. We defended it. And here's the really crazy part. While we were falling for Harley's marketing genius, Honda was quietly building better motorcycles, more reliable motorcycles, more advanced motorcycles. But they didn't have the marketing budget to convince us that boring was beautiful. That reliability was revolutionary. That engineering excellence was exciting. So we ignored them. We called them appliances. We said they had no soul. Meanwhile, Honda riders were out there actually riding, putting hundreds of thousands of miles on their machine, exploring remote places, taking cross-country adventures, living the motorcycle lifestyle that Harley only advertised. But here's what really gets me. The Harley marketing worked so well that even Honda riders started to feel embarrassed about their choice. I've met Honda guys who apologize for not riding Harleys, who make excuses for choosing reliability over image, who actually feel guilty about wanting a motorcycle that works. That's not just brilliant marketing. That's cultural manipulation on a massive scale. And the proof is in the parking lots. How many pristine Harleys do you see that obviously never get ridden? Garage queens with 300 miles on the odometer after 5 years of ownership. Compare that to the beaten up, high-mileage Hondas with luggage racks and touring accessories. Bikes that look like they've actually been places. Which one is living the motorcycle dream? You want to know the real difference between Honda and Harley? It's philosophy. Honda engineers their bikes to not break. They use liquid cooling, precision manufacturing, and modern technology to build engines that just work. Harley engineers their bikes to feel authentic, even when that authenticity comes at the cost of reliability. Honda uses liquid cooling because it's better for the engine. Harley sticks with air cooling because it looks traditional. Honda uses balanced crankshafts that reduce vibration. Harley uses single pin cranks that create that potato-potato sound. But all that vibration literally shakes bolts loose. It's like they're more concerned with the experience than the engineering. Let me tell you something that might shock you about modern motorcycle engineering. The gap between Honda and Harley isn't getting smaller, it's getting bigger. While Harley fights to preserve 1940s technology in 2025 motorcycles, Honda is pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Let me give you some examples that'll blow your mind. Honda's current Goldwing has more computing power than the Space Shuttle. It has radar cruise control, collision avoidance, automatic transmission option, and navigation systems that rival luxury cars. But here's the kicker. With all that advanced technology, it's still more reliable than a basic Harley Sportster. Honda's Shadow engines regularly go 200,000 miles without major work. Their fuel injection systems adapt to altitude, temperature, and riding style automatically. Their electrical systems are completely weatherproof. Meanwhile, Harley just figured out how to make fuel injection work consistently, and they're proud of it. But here's what really bothers me. Harley could build better motorcycles. They have the resources. They have smart engineers. They know how to solve these problems. They choose not to, because their customers don't want better engineering. They want the image of rebellion without the actual inconvenience of unreliability. So Harley builds just reliable enough to avoid lawsuits, but just unreliable enough to maintain authenticity. It's brilliant business and terrible engineering. Honda takes the opposite approach. They over-engineer everything. They build motorcycles that last longer than their owners want to keep them. They solve problems before customers even know they exist, and then they don't know how to market it. How do you make reliability exciting? How do you make precision manufacturing romantic? How do you sell boring excellence in a world that wants exciting mediocrity? Honda never figured that out, so they let their products speak for themselves, which works great for people who actually ride, but doesn't work so well for people who want to look like they ride. And that's the real difference between these companies. Honda builds motorcycles for riders. Harley builds motorcycles for buyers. Now let me tell you about Honda that nobody talks about. Boring, right? That's what everyone says. But you know what's not boring? Riding 300,000 miles without a major breakdown. I've got a buddy with a Goldwing, 300,000 miles, original engine, never left him stranded, not once. His maintenance routine, oil changes every 8,000 miles, chain adjustment twice a year. That's it. Compare that to my Harley days. I had my mechanic on speed dial. I planned routes around dealerships, just in case. That's not freedom, that's anxiety with chrome accessories. Let's talk about money. The real cost of ownership. I kept track of everything I spent on my Harley over 3 years. Beyond the purchase price, I was spending almost $2,000 a year just to keep it running. My Honda, maybe $600 a year on maintenance. The difference over 5 years, almost $7,000. But it's not just about money, it's about stress. With my Harley, I was always listening for new noises, always checking for leaks, always wondering if this ride would be the one where something went wrong. With Honda, I just ride. Here's the question nobody wants to ask. Why do we accept unreliability from Harley when we wouldn't accept it from anything else? If your car broke down every few thousand miles, you'd get rid of it. If your phone died randomly, you'd buy a different brand. But when a Harley leaks oil, we call it character. When it vibrates so hard it loosens bolts, we call it soul. When did paying more money for worse performance become authentic? Let's be real about something else. Culture matters. When you buy a Harley, you're buying membership in a community, an identity. Harley riders wave at each other. They gather at rallies. There's something special about that brotherhood. Honda riders, we're more scattered, less organized. We don't have the same strong cultural identity. But here's what I noticed. The Honda riders I've met are just as passionate about riding, maybe more so, because their bikes don't hold them back from actually doing it. Both communities have value, but if you're choosing based on community, understand what kind of riding that community actually does. So here's my conclusion after owning both. Honda builds motorcycles for people who want to ride. Harley builds motorcycles for people who want to look like they ride. Both are valid choices, but they're very different choices. If you value reliability and low maintenance, Honda is your answer. If you value tradition, sound, and Harley culture, even with the headaches, then Harley might be worth it. But be honest about what you're buying. The question you need to ask yourself is, do you want to ride a motorcycle? Or do you want a motorcycle to define who you are? Now here's what I really want to know. What's your experience? Team Honda or Team Harley? And why? Have you owned both? Have you had that $8,000 repair bill? Have you put 300,000 miles on without issues? Drop your stories in the comment. The real story. The honest story. Because that's how we figure out which bike is right for each of us. Not from marketing. Not from brand loyalty. From real riders sharing real experiences. Hit that like button if this helped you think about bikes differently. Subscribe for more honest takes on motorcycle culture. And remember, the best bike is the one that gets you where you're going. Whether that's Honda or Harley, that's up to you. But now you know what you're really choosing between.